With all of our pages complete, we're going to go back to our recipe card and build out our upvote functionality. The first thing we're going to do is get a group and drag that onto the right side of the recipe card and call it group upvote. For this group, we want to differentiate the style. So we'll make a new style for it that's similar to the recipe card, but we'll give this a different border so it stands out. With the style done, we'll go back to the Design tab and drag an icon directly into the group. We'll make this icon a thumbs up so we have an indicator to the user that we want them to upvote this recipe. Next, we'll edit the style for this icon and change the initial color to a lighter gray, giving the user another indicator that they can click on this. And we'll make it conditional so when this icon is hovered, we'll change the icon color back to the initial blue, making the icon look clickable. We can preview this so we can see what it will look like before and after, and we can add a transition for the icon color so it'll seamlessly animate once we hover over the icon. Next, we need a way to show the user how many upvotes this recipe has, so we'll draw a text box onto the page. We can then resize that text box outside the group, giving us an easier time dragging it in since it's already a small space. We'll then go to add dynamic data to this text box, but notice that when we do, we don't actually have anything to add from. This is because our recipe card is the main group with a type of content and data source. Our new upvote group doesn't have access to that information. So we'll go ahead and add that by giving this group type recipe and then the parent group's recipe. Now when we go to add an expression for the text box, we have parent group's recipe accessible. And through this expression, we're able to get this recipe's upvotes, which will display how many upvotes this recipe has. To program this, we need to double click on our icon and start a workflow. To make the upvote count go up, we need to modify the data. So we'll go into data and make changes to the parent group's recipe, giving us access to whichever recipe is the parent group's recipe. We'll then have access to every custom field on the recipe data type, and all we want to do is add 1 to upvotes. So we'll tell Bubble that upvotes equals this recipe's upvotes plus 1, which we'll just punch in after we hit the plus sign. So now when we click the thumbs up button, we're telling Bubble to find the recipe and set its upvotes field equal to its upvotes field and add 1. And since we added this to the reusable recipe card element, it's already on all of our pages that the recipe card exists. So when we refresh our page, each of our recipes now have their own upvote button. And when we click it, their upvote count for that individual recipe goes up. We can even view the recipe on its own page and upvote it there as well. And of course, we can see this upvote count in our database, and we can see each entry that has upvotes and their current values. Now that our recipes have an upvote ability, our application is fully functional. In the next lesson, we're going to add a dropdown to sort this repeating group in alphabetical order, most popular and most recent.